First, you got to understand what entrepreneurship is. It's a phase in playing the game. It's a phase of awareness. First, you have to understand what game we're playing. We're playing a game called Capitalism. Best game ever, because it rewards the hell out of people who play the game well and play the game right. And it punishes people who play the game poorly and who hurt others along the way.
You know, when it comes to business and entrepreneurship, what a successful entrepreneur looks at also is obviously the potential, right? Not only now, but the potential for the future.
There are healthy drugs that your body naturally produces. When you do good and you know you did good, it releases oxytocin and serotonin.
What's up, guys? Welcome to another episode of the Driven Not Given podcast. And we're going to talk about some things today that not only are very important, but they're also a little controversial, right? So I'm warning you right now because my guest that I got on today, I respect them a tremendous amount from the entrepreneur world, from the sales world, from the business world. But this is probably one of the biggest renaissance men that I know. You know what I mean? And so we're going to get into some very interesting things. So with that being said, my man, Nick, how you doing, brother?
Incredible. What a wonderful and kind introduction that was. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Hey, no, not a problem, my friend, not a problem. Well, listen, man, it's very good to have you on here, bro. You and I, we've been friends and we've been connected for a long time. And ever since I met you out in Florida at that boot camp, it was, you know, I knew that you were going to be somebody I was going to be in touch with for a long, long time. So listen, as you know, on the podcast, we talk about business and we talk about entrepreneurship. We talk about personal growth. And these are all things that you have a wealth of knowledge on, man. So I want to jump right into it. So if are you ready, my friend?
Always. I mean, they're interconnected. Like I tell everybody, man, ask me whatever you want and I will answer it the way I answer everything.
How is that?
We will find out as we go.
Let's do it, bro. So listen, man, I'm going to just come right off the back with, what's the number one skill in the world, bro? If you had to tell this, 16-year-old kid that wants to get out in the world, wants to conquer the world in the day and age that we live in, what is the number one or number two skills in the world that person should develop to start?
Well, so there's only like three things that your mind really does, right? You can create things, you can validate things, and you can communicate things. And like communication is sort of the base level interaction of all like human growth, right? You have to be able to take a concept, an idea from inside of yourself and give it to another person and get parts of it back and vice versa, right? You have to be able to actually exchange with people. And if you can't communicate, you can't sell. If you can't communicate, you can't feel heard. Which is another interesting thing, right? Because like Maslow's pyramid tells us that like it's a very high base human need, like almost right at the top where self-actualization is this need to feel heard.
Right.
And if you don't know how to communicate, if you never develop proper skills to communicate, then you have no ability, like your ability to feel heard is lessened.
Interesting.
And like it's a base skill that other skills build off of, right? The better you communicate, the better you can sell, the better you can negotiate, the better you can do a lot of things that revolve around communication, right? You can socialize and rally people. You probably end up in happier relationships if you communicate well.
Absolutely, man.
Probably get your needs met more often if you communicate well.
Hey, listen, man, that is, if something that you said is true, is that last point, right? You definitely get your needs met a lot better if you know how to communicate well. It's absolutely fundamental. And the best salespeople in the world are the best communicators, right? And the people that are also able to read other people's communication properly. It's
all part of that same skill set, right? The nonverbal communication, nonviolent communication. Like I've spent my life kind of gathering skills. And we talk about this sometimes, you and I. We talk about the fact that like we're all kind of playing this giant RGB, or like our RPG game, right? And you collect skills and you develop those skills just like you do in a video game, right? Like life is video games are built to emulate life. So of course it's a gamification of the process of achieving something is what a video game is. So if you sort of look at your life that way and you look at like when you go into one of those games, they'll have like a skill tree, right? And like as you level up, you get skill points that you get to go spend on like those skill trees that kind of fork off from different things. And like the communication skill tree is so interesting, right? And so like every time I try to develop more skills in that skill tree, it has made my life better. There's other skills I've developed, I've chosen to develop, right? But that one for me has always been really big.
Yeah, makes sense.
And I think it comes from I have a natural creative impulse. Like I come up with, I guess, what you would call novel concepts, novel ideas, novel thoughts, things that aren't often thought by other people, or things that are hybrids of what other people thought smashed together in a unique way. So like the desire to communicate those things that I was thinking that were not things that I could, like, I wanted to communicate things that I was thinking that I wasn't seeing. And so like the base level of communication is to communicate something that like, hey, JC, this is a phone, right? Phone, good. You use phone for sales. Like that's communicating something tangible in the real world.
Sure.
But communicating an idea, right? Something that you have no way of being like, look, point at thing, right? That's far more complicated.
Yeah.
And so
yeah,
the more
I agree.
complicated that unique thing is, the more developed your communication skill set has to be to get another person to understand it.
Yep.
And you know
Yeah.
what's made you an incredibly successful person, in my opinion, is your ability to communicate. And it's sort of filtered through, I would like I said earlier, your top line skill, which is this sort of ability to rally people, ability to get people around you, right? Like you can communicate, hey, if you do what I'm doing, you will get a similar to result what I'm getting. And I need you to fully commit to what I'm doing. And you communicate that really well.
Thank you. Thank you. No, listen, man, that makes sense. And, you know, communication, sales. So that leads me to a question that you kind of answered already. But this day and age, right? Because this day and age, things are a lot different. What makes a great salesperson this day and age?
And this is the interesting thing, right? Because all business kind of comes down, and I got to credit Alistair for this, you know, Dr. Alistair Coburn, he created that Heart of Agile content, and he was like, all business sort of boils down to 4 words: collaborate, deliver, reflect, and improve. And those 4 words are really interesting because everything you do every day kind of falls under one of those 4 words. Even you, like, think about it right now. Can you think of anything that you have to do for your business and building your business that doesn't fall in one of those 4 areas?
No.
That's it.
Correct.
What's interesting about this is that there's 2 uniquely human things to that and 2 sort of mechanical things. You know, the first time he explained this to me, it took me a minute to grasp what he meant by mechanical versus human, but as soon as he explained which 2 are which 2, he goes, collaborate is human. Only human beings collaborate. Like you can communicate, but that's different from collaboration.
Right.
Like when you work on a person is different from working with a person. Working for a person is different from working with a person. You know what it feels like to collaborate and to be collaborated with.
Right.
Right. Now, delivery is mechanical. A lot of us sell stuff that is literally delivered by somebody else. The function of delivery isn't even in our mindset as a salesperson. Right.
Right.
Reflection is a completely human action. Machines can't reflect on what they did.
Correct.
You can.
Right.
Now, improvement is interesting. A machine can improve efficiency. Improvement is actually a mechanical action. We don't view improvement as mechanical. It's the achievement. It's the scoreboard. It's the binary decision: up, down, up, down, up, down.
Right. Right.
And this was the thing that messed me up, because guys like you and me, we view improvement as like, that's human achievement. That's the goal. Like that's the most human thing.
Sure.
No. You can improve anything mechanically.
Right. Right.
Right? What's a drill versus a screwdriver? It's a mechanical improvement.
Right. That's true.
Yeah. It's in fact, the entirety of technology is about using something to improve what the human does, but not replace the human.
And I know that that's something that you're heavily involved in, right? You help. That's why I asked the question, right? What makes a great salesperson today? Because of course, communication skills, follow-up skills, and all that stuff. But nowadays, it goes beyond that. And that's one of the things that you and I have a pending conversation about, which is the communication. And you work a lot with AI technology and communication to get people to scale tremendously. So
I can teach a robot to feel like a person while it's doing mechanical functions.
Nice.
Like, and we do that. We built an AI that does sales follow-up because, and it's, I mean, shameless plug, but you know, AIfollowup.com, we figured out that basically the only the top 8% of all salespeople ever make more than 5 touch points on a lead. So we just built an AI that acts like you and does over 150 touch points per lead in a 90-day cycle, and ends up connecting you with over 80% of your leads, which is ridiculous. But that's what you should be connecting with. The average person connects with about 20%. And they should be connecting with about 80%. And it's simply a lack of patient, persistent, and polite follow-up because we get discouraged. People don't respond, and our emotions set in. It's follow-up is mechanical. It needs to be done by a machine. That's why jocks are good salespeople because they're built on repetition, right? They're not the most empathetic guys, right? The empathetic skill set, listening, active listening is what makes you a great high-end closer. You understand their needs, you understand their problems, you help connect where they're going and what you can do for them to those things so that they feel comfortable spending large amounts of money with you.
Right.
Empathy is a huge skill for a human closer that a machine can't fucking replicate.
Right.
But pounding the phone, doing the actual texting, and I know you've seen this because we've all seen two completely different types of salespeople. We've seen the salespeople that literally were jocks, right? You can totally tell. You're like, yo, that dude played football in college, and somehow he has a fucking super high-end sales job. And it's because he is consistent.
Right.
He learned consistency through athletics, through team sports.
True. Very true.
Right? So when he goes into work every day, he may not be the biggest brain in the office, the best closer, the best talker, but he hits his leads every day.
Yes.
He's in that top 2% of people in the sales operation that actually does it.
Yep.
And there's guys down the hall from him that don't have as good of numbers as him that could finesse their way around a conversation 10 times better. But they'll never connect with the number of leads he's connecting with because he gets in there like he's doing high school 2-a-days.
You know, and that goes back to the old adage that hard work beats talent when talent doesn't work hard. And so what you've done is you put that into AI technology, right?
That was the thing. Like, so just make the hard work done for them.
That's powerful.
And then all we have to do is let the AI work on the part that's just moving them to the phone call. Everybody's like, yeah, but your messaging has to be long. I'm like, no, it's very short messaging because you're not trying to actually use any empathy. All you have to do is act like a real person that's just trying to connect with you.
Right.
Hey, man, hate to be a pest, but I've been reaching out to you for like 6 days. Do you no longer have a problem? ?
Right.
Hey, JC, is this the wrong number?
Right.
Right? Like little things like that it drastically increases engagement.
Yes.
And then jumping around platforms. Most of the drip campaigns are like email only or text only, or maybe they do some call drops. When we built our system, we realized one thing. A real person doesn't only message you on, like a good salesperson hits you on everything.
Got it.
And they're aware that they're hitting you on everything, right? Like if I send you an email and leave you a voice message and text you, I'm not going to have none of they're going to reference each other. I'm going to be like, hey man, I just emailed you. Hey man, I just left you a message.
Right.
But most of these automation systems don't think that way because they're not built that way.
Got it.
It feels mechanical. And when something feels mechanical, I mean, you tell me, JC, do you know when you're being talked at versus talked with?
Oh yeah.
And from a perspective of a sale, which one would you rather give your money to? The person who's talking at you or the person who's talking with you?
Yeah, person's talking with me.
Who are you going to get on the phone with? The guy who's trying to talk with you or a guy who's telling you how great he is?
No, the first one.
Exactly. But most of the marketing automations that I had seen up until we built what we built were all like just spew benefit statements until somebody raises their hand. And I was like, could you imagine if that's how you dated? If you just like walked around a party talking about how great you were until someone was like, yeah, I'd like to go home with you.
Right.
And then I realized some people do that.
Hey, listen, when I was a single guy, I wish that worked, you know what I mean? So, but it's not that easy, right? You gotta take your time and get there and whatnot, right? But that's a different conversation for a different type of episode, you know? Hey, listen, I want to talk about entrepreneurship, bro. Why do you love entrepreneurship so much? I love entrepreneurship. I want to make that clear, and anybody that listens to this podcast knows that. But I want to get your perspective about entrepreneurship, about the country that we live in, and why entrepreneurship is so great. And what are your takes on entrepreneurship? And that's going to lead to conversations about where we see this country going right now, too.
Well, first you got to understand what entrepreneurship is. It's a phase in playing the game. It's a phase of awareness. First, you have to understand what game we're playing. We're playing a game called Capitalism. Best game ever. Rewards the hell out of people who play the game well and play the game right. And it punishes people who play the game poorly and who hurt others along the way.
Right.
It's a really interesting game that way, right? Unless it's being manipulated. And there are a lot of people out there that like to try to cheat this game. This game needs to be played purely. This game needs to be played for the love of this game. But here's how this game works. There are 4 phases that you play in this game. You start off on level 0, basically, right? Call it orientation phase, right? You know how when you first get into a video game and like all those little pop-ups are showing you how to do stuff?
Yes.
and you're just kind of like walking through and you're like, there's no challenge to this. I'm just kind of, I could sleepwalk my way through this.
Right.
That's being an employee.
Correct.
So when you're an employee, you're at level 0 of the game. Right? You're barely a player. You're basically like a non-player character. Now, the point of being an employee is to learn, right? Some moves.
Right.
Learn the necessary things to go to the next phase. And the next phase is not leaving the company, actually. The next phase is becoming an intrapreneur.
Okay.
Now, what's interesting about that? That means that you have made an awareness shift, and your awareness has changed from like, hey, I'm just sort of turned off learning the motions, going through the motions, to, oh, I learned the moves and now I want to go play the game, and I need to learn from other players, and I need to see what goes on, and I need to learn how this company makes money, and I need to learn how I make money with this company, and learn how this company makes money off of me. I need to learn about my customers. I need to learn my clients. I need to figure out if this is a business that I want to actually get into.
Right.
You remember the first time you had that thought?
Oh yeah.
You were working for somebody else, and all of a sudden you were like, wait a minute, I could do this without them.
That's right. That's right.
But I got to learn it from them first.
Right.
And that's the thing. Too many people go down washout lane. And washout lane is the people who call themselves entrepreneur by name, and they try to skip the step of being an intrapreneur. They try to skip the step of learning from somebody. They try to skip the step of finding something that someone else is doing well and replicating to get to a certain point where you can call it, I have a line of success that I can now build off of and go to entrepreneur, which is I've honed the skills of working with somebody long enough that I can stand on my own 2 feet to run my own business.
Got it. Now, what about right. Now, what about being an entrepreneur? Would you say that being an entrepreneur is something that anybody can be successful at, or are there certain types of people that can be successful at it? What's your take on that?
If you follow the steps to get to it, anyone can do well at it. And what do I mean by that? That middle step, you got to find somebody else who's doing the thing that you think you want to do, and you got to go work for them. And you got to learn how they do it. And you got to stay humble. I'm trying so hard not to curse on this, but you got to stay humble, and you got to learn from somebody who's doing it well.
Right.
And you got to understand that you're not going to, like a light switch, just jump into being successful at the thing. You have to make the reps. You have to be willing to be consistent even when the result is inconsistent.
Oh, I like that. That's good. I mean, that's a recipe for success just in about anything, man.
100%. Because there's a guy named Ari Weinzweig. I don't know if you're familiar with him. He's brilliant. He built Zingerman's Deli in Ann Arbor, Michigan. He gives a bunch of talks all the time. He's been on Google's talks. He's been on TED. And he wrote these things called the 12 Natural Laws of Business. And one of my favorite is, he goes, anything great takes longer than you think. Like it always takes longer to get to greatness than we think.
Nice.
And that's true. Right?
True. Yeah, no, absolutely, man. Absolutely. Greatness is, very few people are going to achieve that. But going back to entrepreneurship, I agree that anybody can be successful, right? But there are certain personalities, right? That, for example, I know a lot of great salespeople, but they suck at running a business. Then they go back to being a salesperson because they just do better, right? I mean, running a company and then running, let's say, for example, as a solar guy, I have a solar business. Some guys, they will crash and burn, running a business, running their own solar business, but they can be extremely productive and put in all of the hours on the sales side, but not necessarily make the best entrepreneur.
And that's the thing, right? Like, there are varying levels of, again, like I said, you have to go learn from somebody else before you become an entrepreneur.
Yeah.
And you have to know what you're capable of. Right? Like when I started this, man, most of my companies up until I decided to start making stuff with Steve and Josh, and even in that situation, they make stuff. I find somebody who made a thing already.
Right.
My entrepreneurship is I put myself in a position where I use my most valuable skill set, and I find people who have the stuff I don't have.
Right. You recruit your weakness.
Yeah, I don't sell my time. I sell my fucking value.
Right.
Right? Because when somebody, like, you can't buy me with cash, you can only buy me with equity. And you better have something that I want equity in.
Right.
Like when I took one look at Woo Center, I was like, I know what this is and I know where this is going. And I'm available. I'm like, I'm going to write down a number on a piece of paper. It's not a dollar amount. It's a percentage. If you don't ever feel comfortable giving me that percentage, then we should just end this conversation now.
Right.
And Steve looked at that piece of paper. He goes, I got to call Paul because that was his partner. And he called Paul and he came back. He goes, we're comfortable with that. Not today, but you got to earn it. I'm like, that's fine. As long as I know in writing that that's where I'm going, I'm here.
That's good. I love it, man.
And that's what entrepreneurs do, right? They realize that they're making a shift. And that shift is you stop trading your time for dollars and you start trading your skill for dollars.
I love it. You know, that's
the difference,
yes.
Right? When you're still playing the intrapreneur game, you're trading your time for dollars with somebody else still.
Right.
When you trade the entrepreneur game, you're now trading your skill for dollars. So you could be doing it as a consultant who's just really good at being a consultant. You could do it. I've met guys who are terrible salespeople, amazing accountants. They own their own business. Why? Because the one thing that they're highly skilled at is enough to sustain a business.
Right.
I know sales guys that go find other people's white label products, things that someone else can fulfill.
Yep.
I know one of them in this room.
That's right.
And they go, hey, this is a great thing. They can fulfill it. I know I can sell. To me, all a business is the ability to sell, merchant, transact, track, and teach.
Right.
Those are all of your strengths, right? Everything about that you do really well. So you will mold yourself into a business where that is what the business is. The business is monetizing your strengths and skills. What is the business you have right now? Sure, it's a solar company, but have you ever installed solar at anybody's business?
No, absolutely not.
You know how to? If I dropped you off at a house right now with the equipment, would you know what to do?
Nope, not at all.
You've built a very successful solar business. And how did you do it? You built the business around the skills you knew you had.
Right. And you know, one of the things about the company that attracted me, which is kind of to your point, I have the stock options in that company. And as the performance goes up, I earn a bigger percentage. You know, when it comes to business and entrepreneurship, what a successful entrepreneur looks at also is obviously the potential, right? Not only now, but the potential for the future. Well, me personally, I looked at the solar industry and I realized, okay, the world is moving to renewable energy. Solar panels and electric vehicles are in our present and even more so in our future. So, hey, I want to be a part of it. Now, I happen to work with and have a franchise with the fastest growing solar company in the world. And I get to own a percentage. So not only can we make great money and help the customer, help the end consumer, but also give other people the opportunity. You know, I really believe, for example, you know, again, on the topic of entrepreneurship, I'll give you a quick story. In 2016, I was involved in network marketing. I had a guy who was a part of my sales organization, 2016. We met at the DoubleTree Hotel in San Antonio, Texas. And he joined my network marketing company. A month later, he left. He went to a company called eXp Realty, okay? Fastest growing real estate company in the world. Long story short, back then in 2016, this guy was making about $250,000 a year, him and his wife, selling real estate in Texas. That's a good income, right? Not rich, not wealthy by any means, but that's a good income. Today, because he understood how to be an intrapreneur, as you mentioned, build a company, build a sales organization within a company, and with that model, earn stock options. The guy's worth $200 million right now, makes about $500,000 a month, makes double what he used to make yearly. Now he makes it monthly, and he's worth over $200 million. Why? Because the company went public. He owned, he got, stock options in that company. That was wrote into his compensation plan. So when I saw what this company was doing, I said, this is exactly eXp Realty, but for solar. And so that's where I'm at now. I own a bunch of shares in the company, hundreds of people nationwide selling solar. The name of the game for me in entrepreneurship is, well, some of the things that I see, and maybe you could give me your opinion on them. But number one is, of course, timing. There's a saying, the T in timing is far more important than the T in talent, right? We certainly wouldn't go out there and sell, pagers these days, right? That timing's gone. So for me, you, for example, AI technology, the world is changing, man. You've got to do business different. In my example, the renewable energy, it's inevitable. It's obvious. It's super obvious that that's the future. Okay, great. But also leverage income, getting paid off of the efforts of other people, which is one of the things I want to talk about. And also, like you said, I love what you said. It's not a dollar amount, but it's a percentage, right? And I think that's such a big thing because I'll give you an example. When I got started with the company, instead of me having a franchise within this company, I was going to start my own company with the same business model. Then I realized, oh my God, a company already exists that has this business model. Great. I don't have to go out there and put up all this money, raise some more money, and go through that headache. Somebody already did it, and I could go over here and piggyback off of it. So there's so many opportunities, but most people, they're just not looking, right?
So I agree wholeheartedly. And your guy is an entrepreneur, not an intrapreneur, because here's the difference. An intrapreneur has not yet taken full responsibility for themselves and their income, right? Like you collect your own money once you become an entrepreneur. It's full responsibility. So your dude is in full responsibility of his money mode, right? Salespeople become entrepreneurs very quickly. Really, if you want to know if you're a sales entrepreneur, do you have them pay you W-2 or 1099? If you're being paid as a contractor, you are a sales entrepreneur, my friend. I don't care if you fucking go and report into an office every day.
Right.
You write your paycheck. Do they give you a base? If not, you write your paycheck.
Yep.
Right? You an owner. If you write your paycheck, you're an owner. But here's the difference. There's a phase after entrepreneur. And you know what it is. If it starts at employee, where do you think it ends? Employer.
Oh, right.
And the difference between entrepreneur and employer is an entrepreneur takes full responsibility for himself. An employer takes responsibility for others.
Nice. That's good.
That's where that's you've now reached the top level of the game. You're an employer. You write other people's paychecks.
Right. Hey, it reminds me of a song by P. Diddy. One of my favorite lines in a song. He says, "I don't write rhymes, I write checks." That was gangster, man. Because I guess somebody was criticizing him about not writing his own rhymes. He says, "Man, doesn't matter. I don't write rhymes, I write checks." Right? He's the employer. He's the guy. And that's what the entrepreneur is, right? I love having employees writing their checks. My credit repair company, I show up twice a month to write checks. You know what I mean? And so
if you want to look at it in check form, an employee gets checks. An intrapreneur puts the amount in, but the check is signed by somebody else. An entrepreneur writes their own checks. An employer writes checks to other people.
Nice. I love it, man.
So when you go from getting the check to giving the check, that means you've gone to the top level.
I love it. Now, so check this out. That leads me to something I saw you doing a Facebook Live yesterday. I think it was it yesterday or the day before yesterday, where you talk about spiritual capitalism? Right, one of those days. But you mentioned something that is a topic that I feel is so incredibly important for us to have, because it's not being had enough. And there's people that don't, it's such a simple thing and people don't get it. You were talking about depression. What is the number one cure for depression? I believe was your words, right? Can you elaborate on that conversation?
Achievement. Do something.
Yep.
Be alive. Get engrossed in an aesthetic, right? Like, and this is where it comes from. Like, people are understanding of depression. And I say this all the time. I'm like, depression is such a weird thing because there's definitely chemical depression that exists, right? Yes. But there's also this massive overdiagnosis of depression. It's like ADD, right? Like, there's definitely people with real ADHD. And then there's a shit ton of people who are being misdiagnosed as ADHD so we can give them meth. And there's a ton of people who are being misdiagnosed as depressed when they've just gotten sad, a curable sadness that does not need pills. But sad doesn't require a pill.
Right.
Depression requires a pill. And what is that pill? Well, most pills that we give people, just like the pills we gave kids like Ritalin and Adderall, we gave them anesthetics. We gave them something to calm them down, to turn them off, to lower their senses, because if depression is pain, right? ADD is too much energy. We have to always, the pills we're giving people are always about lowering, and turning them off to what's going on. It's an anesthetic. It comes from the words anti-aesthetic. An aesthetic is something that lights up your senses and makes you feel alive and present. Right? So an anti-aesthetic is something that dulls your senses and makes you feel dead.
The opposite.
Simple. It's in the words. One of the really interesting things is that a lot of the truth about the world is buried in language. It's buried in the words, and we ignore the words that we're saying every day.
Right. No, it's true, man. You know, I give this example all the time, man. We are the happiest when we aren't producing. And even the good book says it, right? Even in the Bible, it talks about that. But the truth is, it says, for example, the sleep of a laboring man is sweet. Even, for example, when I buy something, my wife, right? She's always ordering. So it seems like we have Amazon packages coming every day, man. Shit. If you don't want to spend a bunch of money on Amazon, don't get yourself a wife, because she's going to have shit coming to your house all the time, man. Jay, Take that advice. But here's the deal. She buys this thing, right? Like this pantry, another pantry that we needed. And I built it, right? Got it shipped to the house. And as I grabbed my screwdriver, I got a screwdriver machine and a drill. And I grabbed the tools. I'm like, okay, this shit's gonna take me at least an hour to put together. It took me closer to 2 hours, right? I mean, I'm not a handyman, but I do what I can. So I'm putting it together. Now, in the beginning that I'm putting it together, I'm not looking forward to it, but as I see it start coming together, just like a business, just like your body, if you go to the gym and you start to lose weight, you start to get more definition, your clothes starts to fit good, you start to get motivated, and all of a sudden something happens in you that you start to feel good. Why? Because you're accomplishing shit. Even when I put this pantry together, finally I put it together, I'm standing over it like, yes, I built that. My wife comes and says, wow, babe, you did a good job, looks good, right? And she's kind of saying a little bit of jokes and whatnot, calling me a handyman, but I do feel good. The point is that we are the happiest when we're producing. You got to get up and do some shit. So when I heard you talk about
Production produces healthy drugs. There are healthy drugs that your body naturally produces. When you do good and you know you did good, it releases oxytocin and serotonin. Your brain actually gives you a drug to say, hey, you should feel good. You did good. Here's a healthy drug from your brain to your body. Here you go for doing good. And that release of serotonin and oxytocin makes you feel, and you go, ooh, doing something feels good.
And you want to do some more.
I feel like I actually feel good. And that's literally a physical reaction to those chemicals being released in your body by the act of achievement. And small achievements release small amounts, and big achievements release big amounts.
Right.
And then big physical achievements, and this is an interesting one. And the bigger the achievement, the more it has the ability to release adrenaline.
Wow.
So now we have 3 chemicals that can drop: oxytocin, serotonin, and adrenaline. And what does adrenaline do? You've been in a fight. How good does that feel? How alive are your senses in the presence of adrenaline, natural adrenaline in your body?
Yep.
It's amazing.
You don't even feel the pain, man. That's why you feel it after, you know what I mean? But it's an amazing thing.
Closed a big sale and you felt all 3 chemicals rush through your entire body. Your body said, congratulations, here's your reward. And you went, oh God, this feels good. Oh, I could go do anything. I'm going to go. Kids, leave the house. Your mother and I need some time.
That's right.
It is, screw Viagra. That's all you need.
Right.
It is the actual cure for almost everything is those 3 chemicals. They actually physically make you, they tune in your senses. They make your mind sharper. They make your body stronger. And you know what? They don't come from a pharmacy. They don't come from a factory. They come from the physical act of achievement.
It's not artificial. Yeah, and that's the thing. See,
made things, right? We've made all these weird substances and all these weird video games with like these freemium apps where like you get rewarded like Pavlovianly to release those chemicals. That's a negative release of the same chemical.
Yep.
That chemical was built and designed in you as a human being to be released upon achievement, not to have fake achievements put in front of you by a screen to desensitize you to what real achievement actually feels like.
Damn, bro. That's some powerful stuff, man. That's powerful stuff. And listen, that's why sports is so, for me, sports is so key. And my son is in jiu-jitsu. I train him and I did sports all my life to this day, right? And yes, those moments, there is a sense of euphoria the bigger the achievement, right? When I won a world title, it was weird, bro. Like I remember the feeling like it was yesterday. I got tingly and I couldn't contain myself. I was giddy and that's when I understood what euphoria is and stuff. And so guess what? Getting out there and achieving stuff. As a matter of fact, check this out. About a year and a half ago, I maybe a little bit less, about a year ago, I recorded a video in my home office and I put it on my Instagram story. And Jay wasn't working with me yet. We didn't have the studio yet. It was just in my house. I was gonna start my podcast just in my house, record my own shit, send it to somebody to edit it for me and whatnot. And I remember recording a video, the mics and the computer and the desk and the office and whatnot. And I said, everything is created twice. First it's created in the mind, then it's created in the physical. And this is a recording of me putting it out into the universe that this podcast is gonna come into existence. I didn't even have a name for the podcast yet. I didn't have a logo for the podcast, right? And as you start seeing it come together, you got, in my example, right? I got the mic, I got the desk, I got this, I got that, I got the name. Great. Now that I got the name, great. Let's get a logo for it, right? We got the logo for it. Then before you know, everything comes together. Now there's a bunch of episodes. It's on Spotify. It's on Apple, Amazon, YouTube, etc. It's got thousands of, of downloads everywhere. The point that I'm getting to is that as you start to achieve shit, you put one step in front of the other. There isn't many things that depress me. The only thing that would depress me is something major like, losing a family member, stuff like that. But I've lost, in the 2017 crypto crash, I lost $1 million. Ask me if I got depressed. The answer is no. I didn't fucking get depressed. You know why? Money, you could always make that shit back. If I lose an arm, if I lose a family member, I can never get that back, right? And so guess what? Fine, let's put one step in front of the other and let's go out there and accomplish. And then as you start to accomplish, you get momentum, and then that momentum leads to more momentum. Then your self-confidence grows, and guess what? You attract people that are like you. For example, if I was a Debbie Downer, I wouldn't have you on the fucking podcast. You'd be like, hell no, I'm not getting on JC's podcast. We probably wouldn't even be friends, you know what I'm saying? Because you're all about energy. You're all about, hey man, listen, I want to hang out with people that make me grow. That's why I have you on the podcast. I said, bro, I got to learn from you. Like I said, you're a Renaissance man if I've ever seen one, bro. We're going to go long. We're going to go long on this episode. If we got to go an hour and a half versus the typical 45 minutes to an hour, we will, because there's so much to cover. But that is such an interesting topic, is the depression. And here's the thing, bro. The society that we live in is pushing all these fucking pills down people's throats, right? That is artificial stuff and bad for them.
Because it's both, right? So like we used to get scared and now we have anxiety, and we used to get sad and now we have depression. And I want you to think about those phrasings, right? Because you used to get scared, and if you get it, you can get rid of it. And we used to get sad, and if you get it, you can get rid of it. Now we have anxiety.
Wow.
Part of you. You have depression. It's a part of you. And that's a very interesting phrasing change.
Yep.
Because then it's not on you to fix it. It's on you to accept it, because it's a part of you.
Right.
And that's the thing. So then we medicate. Oh, you have anxiety. Here's medication you're going to have to take for the rest of your life, because that anxiety is a part of you.
Right.
Not you need to learn how to not be the fucking cowardly lion, right? And I've said this before, the opposite of cowardice, the opposite of courage is not cowardice. The opposite of courage is conformity.
Damn. Yep.
Doing something different from everybody else, right? You're not a coward because you do the same. Like it takes actual courage to decide to break from what everybody else is doing.
Yep.
And so if you sit up and you say, oh shit, I'm not one of these millions of people who is being fed a pill because I'm depressed.
Right.
I'm sad. I'm going to deal with it myself. People will mock you.
Oh yeah.
People send you memes about how you're a gym bro now. And it's like, no, I have better mental health because I am exercising and I am unplugging from the shit that was killing me.
That's right. And it's crazy how the brainwashing runs so deep, right? Like the artificial food that people put in their bodies, right? The artificial light. People don't come out and get sunlight anymore.
The artificial achievement, because that's what they've got them hooked on.
Yes.
They've got them hooked on conformity is a form of achievement. That's what likes are. You realize that, right? Or did that one slide over? Because it slides over a lot of people.
Yeah.
Social media turned conformity into an act of giving people the feeling of artificial achievement. Because likes, which we've now defined as society as achievement,
right,
from conforming.
That's powerful, man. Hey, switching gears a little bit because it kind of relates to what I was talking about getting sun, and you told me about when you got sick and you got the vid. Let's call it the vid, all right? Because we're on fucking YouTube and stuff, so I got to be careful. So you got the vid, and you told me about you got it at the same time that somebody else got it, and who, what was the differences and things that you guys did to get better?
Well, it was interesting, right? Because like, number one, I'm harder than a junkyard dog. I eat really well. I eat really, really clean. I've been sick before in my life. I've got friends who are very, very cautious, who are immune deficient, who handle this situation. And I just looked at what they did. I was like, okay, cool. So you're spending a lot of time outside in the sun. You're eating the way you always eat. You're just being a little bit more cautious with the way you take care of yourself. And then when I got it, I was like, oh shit, I got it. Fuck, it happens. And what I did differently is I rested outside. And that was there was a very interesting thing that I think had a lot to do with what was different for me, is that the inclination when you're sick is to go inside into air conditioning, into recycled, conditioned air that is cold and lacks sunlight, and sleep.
Right.
And everything that I had read about COVID was that it doesn't like vitamin D and it doesn't like the sun. And so I was like, well, then why the fuck would I go inside? So I spent the entire time I was sick, when I would feel like I was sick, I would just go, and thankfully I live in Florida, beautiful sunny Florida. I just went outside. I took naps outside. Like I would literally, I was laying in a lawn chair with a blanket on me in the sun, just sweating. You know, I hydrated. I drank water, obviously, because I'm not stupid. You drink fluids when you're sick, but it had a massive impact. Like I was able to basically run the entire. I missed one meeting in the 14 days that I was sick.
Wow. How long were you sick for approximately?
About 14, 15 days.
Nice. What was your friend's experience?
I mean, he was useless for about the same amount of time.
Damn. But you were able to do more during that time. That's what you're saying.
I was more functional during that time, and I believe it was because I was in the sun.
Yeah, I believe it. And here's the deal. I'm not a doctor. Nick's not a doctor. We're not over here telling you what to do. I'm simply asking him about his experience. I had the vid back in December 2020, and I was out for 2 weeks. One of the mistakes that I made, that I did go out and get sun, but not as much as I should. And I laid down too much. So I never felt shortness of breath. I never felt like, I just felt lethargic. I just didn't feel like working, right? Last day, one Tuesday, I'm working. By noon o'clock, I feel like shit. I went to bed and I just stayed there all day. And it lasted till skip the Tuesday. So exactly 2 weeks. And so, but I started taking a bunch of natural things. I started going out there and walking in the sun, not as much as I should have now, that I think about it. And so, did you hear about the story that came out from Israel? That natural immunity is about 13 times more powerful than, the jab and whatnot?
I believe it. I mean, I definitely believe it, man. Like, I have zero fear at this point.
Me neither.
Now that I've already gone through it. And like I said, one of the things was, I had what I think I had it a while back, and I had some respiratory issues like back in November of 2019, right?
Right.
And then I got what I was told was Delta, and I had no respiratory issues whatsoever this time around, and relatively light symptoms. And I'm convinced, and again, I'm not a fucking doctor. I know my own body, and I've talked to my doctor, who does not advise me to do anything differently, but we're of the belief that if I am able to contract it again, which it seems like I am not, I've been around people who are sick because I'm not afraid at this point. I'm like, yeah, no, I'm good. I'm definitely not going to get it within a month of just having had it.
Sure.
Now, let me ask you this, bro. How do you think the fear that people have that is given to them in the media, how do you think that affects their health and their possibility of getting sick?
Look, your belief affects reality. So if you allow yourself to believe that you're going to die, you can kill yourself. If you tell yourself that you're sick, you'll get sick. If you tell yourself that you're fat, you'll become fat. If you tell yourself you're going to get healthy, you'll get healthy. Like, the first step to anything manifesting itself into the real world is the belief in one's mind. So if you surrender the beliefs in your mind to somebody else, then you are surrendering your physical existence to someone else's control. That's scary to me. Yeah. I don't want to do that. I view myself as a very healthy person. Yeah. I take very good care of myself. And there's a lot of people who would argue, like, well, I don't think you take good care of yourself. I'm like, okay, cool.
Right.
That's why is your focus on my health? You should be focused on how good your own personal health is. The energy I put out into the universe and into myself every day is I eat well, I exercise, I take care of myself because I'm extremely healthy and want to stay extremely healthy.
That's right. I
quit smoking. I gave up cigarettes for the vape. And I had never been able to do that. And then I was like, nah, screw it.
Nice. Switching gears a little bit, Nick. Socialism. Tell me about socialism. It's being taught in universities. This is one of my favorite topics to talk about. It's interesting how I see a lot of, men and women get out of a university, and then their beliefs are that capitalism is bad and that socialism is a way to go. What is your take on
If I
that?
told you it starts earlier than the university?
I believe it. I believe it.
What if I told you it starts the first time you give a kid a participation trophy?
That's right.
First time you tell a child that you don't have to have any skill or make any contribution to be rewarded is the beginning of that indoctrination.
Wow.
Now, I'm sure there's some people who are going to be like, I can't believe you would do that to a kid. I'm a fucking parent.
That's right. Me too.
I'm a good parent. You are too.
Right.
When my daughter comes to me, she doesn't say, give me $20. You know what she comes to me and says? Hey, Dad, what can I do today to earn $20? She understands that she is engaged in earning and creating value and doing things and developing her skills in achieving things. She feels real, actual, natural achievement for what it is.
What are some of the things that you ask her to do to earn $20, for example?
Chores, man. Like she creates chores.
Nice.
Right? Like one day she just decided like, yo, I think that I can take over taking care of the chicken coop. I was like, well, that's kind of a lot of work, kid. That's gross. And she's like, yeah, but it's worth like $20 a week to you, right? Yeah. I mean, yeah, I don't want to shovel shit. $20 a week for you to literally clean shit. Awesome. Go for it.
Nice.
You know, the other week she needed extra money and she goes, hey, Dad, I noticed your car was really dirty. I'm like, yeah, where are you going with this? She's like, I could clean the inside for $10, the outside for $10, or both for 15. How do you feel about that?
Wow. She's a closer.
Did you just hit me with a bundle, little sales girl?
How old is she, man?
She's 10.
That's awesome. So Maxim is a 7, right? And we have a deal. If he wakes up, brushes his teeth without me telling him, does his bed, and throws 30 kicks on each leg, 10 side kicks, 10 front kicks, 10 roundhouse on each leg, he earns $8, right? And so, but the key, he has to do it without me telling him to learn responsibility. So if he doesn't, he gets to do all that for free. And I don't buy him toys. He buys his own toys because he's got like $1,000 saved up, bro. So he asked, hey, can I get a new Lego Mario set? And if we feel like it's time for him to get a new Lego Mario set, he's really into Legos, let's go grab your wallet. I'll drive you to the store and you can pay for your own Lego Mario set. That's my philosophy on raising my kid. And guess what? He's fucking happy. Because you know what? Who are the most unhappiest kids in the world? The fucking spoiled kids.
Entitlement ruins.
And they're always throwing a fit. They're unhappy. You look at an unhappy kid, it's a kid.
Well, that's what socialism is. It's literally people like screaming, as is communism. It's like, I don't want to have to be valuable to survive. I don't want to have to do anything to be taken care of. Right. And this comes back to the other thing. It's like people in government, right? It's crazy to me because I'm like, do you think the government is your dad, your boss, or your employee? Because like I pay them. They're my employee. They're supposed to do what I tell them to do. And all of you are sitting around acting like they're supposed to pay your allowance and tell you how to live your life. What the hell is that about?
Right. That's powerful.
That's all the same thing because you have been fed that you deserve for simply existing. Logging into an app and pressing a button every day is an achievement.
Yeah, such bullshit.
And it's not. It's not. Because if you believe that automation is going to make not having skills worthless means you should just be taken care of, maybe you should figure out which skills are going to be worth something.
That's right.
So you're telling me that if automation makes certain skills in society worthless, then you're just going to stop being a part of society? You're just going to sit around and make, well, my worthless skill set that the machine could do without me is no longer valuable, so I'm just going to give up. No. You're not 70 years old. They're not closing a manufacturing plant that you work in. You're coming into an economy making the decision that I don't want to be valuable.
You know what's funny though, man? Go and have this conversation with Cubans that came from Cuba, that escaped Cuba. Ask them what they think about these policies. Go and ask people that, came from, matter of fact, there's a channel that I follow, Valuetainment, right? Patrick Bet-David, he was just on the Joe Rogan show, which by the way, great interview. I was listening to, I haven't finished it. But he interviewed some girl who escaped North Korea. And so you see these things and stuff. There's a bunch of people, especially in the minority community. I'll speak for the Latino community. They vote, for example, for a certain side. I'll say it, Democrat, without logic, without strictly based on emotion. And I don't know about you, man, but I see a lot of the policies that they're pushing. Yup. The policies that they're pushing over and over is about free shit. And think about it, that's a very easy sell. Free shit, more free shit, more free shit, more free shit. And people are like, sure, let me get it. But let me tell you who doesn't think that way. Those Cubans out in Cuba or wherever the hell they live, right? I mentioned Cuba because there's a bunch of Cubans out there. Those people they're like, dude, I see exactly what was happening 50 years ago, whatever amount of years ago out in Cuba. The exact same thing is happening here. And they'll never vote for those policies because they know where this shit is leading. But the majority of the people that don't have that background, they don't realize they're little by little getting cooked like that frog, right?
Well, think about it, bro. What did we just talk about? These apps, these participation trophies, they're all built around you press a button, you get rewarded. You press a button, you get rewarded. You press a button, you get rewarded. You go to the voting booth, you press the button I want you to, you'll get rewarded.
Yep.
It's an indoctrination through the entire process. It's Pavlovian. You've reduced people to a Pavlovian unit. Press the feed bar, get the pellet, go back to your cube. Press the feed bar, get your pellet, go back to your cube. That's it.
Yep.
That's all that's left if we take out human achievement.
Imagine we take out human achievement. We were talking about happiness and depression. If people think it's high now, it'd be at an all-time high when now they're like, hey, government will take care of you, which sounds great in the beginning to a lot of people, but later on they realize that is not so fucking good. They're not achieving anything. Depression and suicide are going to be at an all-time high. I mean, it's nuts.
My life lacks meaning.
Yep.
And the super and people think that the reason that successful people chase money is that money is meaning and money is not meaning. Being given money is not meaning. This is why so many children of rich people are so unhappy, because it's not.
Right.
The money, collecting currency, is not how you win the game of life. It doesn't mean anything. Collecting stuff is not how you win the game of life. It doesn't mean anything. Creating value, collecting assets helps you level up, right? The amount of positivity or negativity that you create along the way helps you keep score. The only person you're playing against is you, straight up and down, right? And it's a fun game. And if you're not enjoying it, it's because you're not playing.
That's right.
And I look at this and I worry so much, because that's what we're screaming about. We're saying, I view a world where I shouldn't have to contribute to be taken care of. I want a government that just tells me what to do and gives me my food pellets. Look anywhere in history where that's been a good idea. That's not what we are. That's not what the American experiment was about. That's not why people are trying to escape Cuba to come here. That's not why people in Hong Kong are waving American flags and screaming, help us.
I'll give you an example. You talk about socialism where it creates a sense of entitlement, right? Like the government should help me. I'll give you an example without naming any names. There's somebody very close to my family, which technically now is family of mine, technically now. And this individual, I won't mention whether it's a male or female, but this individual was raised by a grandparent, spoiled as shit, never told no. Never told no, spoiled as shit. As of today, because the discipline was never there. She was never told she couldn't do anything. She wasn't held accountable for anything. Now today, as an adult, this individual does not respect her mother. I just mentioned it's a female because I say her, right? Does not respect the mother. Severely overweight, severely entitled, and extremely unhappy. At 18, 19 years old. That is not a fucking coincidence. Exactly. That's not a coincidence, man. And guess what? That's why on the parenting side, I'm a parent now. My son's 7 and Alexander is 2 months old. I qualify to talk about this, but I was talking about this before I was a parent, because I realized discipline is extremely important, and not to develop that sense of entitlement, which is what a bunch of people nowadays, with all this money printing, all this, the left pushing a certain thing of, a bunch of free. Here's the thing. If you look at how many, there's communists.
They're also pushing like that. They're pushing free, but then they're pushing let's tax. And oh, by the way, we need to know about every transaction over $600, but we want to tax the rich. How is $600 rich? Who the fuck are you tracking? And their sentence isn't we need to feed the poor. Their sentence is we need to tax the rich. They keep acting like you know where the money's planned to come from. It's the redistribution of wealth. But every single time that's been attempted throughout history, someone has come forward and said, this is a bad idea. Look what's happening. Margaret Thatcher, right? I love when she got up and she was like, what you are saying is that you would be happier if the poor were poorer, if the rich were simply less rich. Let's see where that gets us.
That's right.
Right? You don't care if the poor were poor. If the quality of life for the poorest people is better, but some people are richer, if the divide between them is higher, even if the people who have the money were the ones that made the quality of life better for the people who don't have as much money. And the reason they don't have as much money is because of the quality of life they have that's improved by the people that have the money at the top. That's how it works. Because guess what? If the government isn't there forcing monopolies on you, and that's what they do. And I hate to say this to the people who don't want to hear this, but let me tell you something. If you think that capitalism is evil and that real socialism hasn't been tried and America is a socialist country, you're half right. We're not a capitalist country. We have capitalism shackled and chained and beaten and held in a fucking basement right now. That's the truth. We have allowed a government that was supposed to bust trusts and stop monopolies to become the purveyor of and securer for monopoly behavior. The government grants monopolies every single day. Every service they provide you is a monopoly service. And what do monopoly services do, JC? The quality of what you get goes down and the cost goes up because they don't care.
Right.
So what do? They create regulations that are designed to make sure that the big guy can't get fucked with because they can pay the regulations. They can deal with the fines.
Yep.
But you and me who want to start a business because we don't like getting picked on by the big guy, the natural cycle of actual competition that stops these global billionaires and super tech companies, the regulations are designed to stop you and I from getting in there. They grant and give monopolies. That's what they do. The people who set up the business structuring for the DM fucking V are in charge of all the functions that the government provides to you.
Wow.
You know what Social Security is? Social Security is a hedge fund managed by the Department of Motor Vehicles. Think about that for a second. No wonder we all get back less money than we put in.
Crazy, man. So let me ask you this. With this crazy ass world that we live in, Nick, what can be done?
Stop. Stand up for yourselves. Like, here's the thing. We live in a place where the amount of power and control and communication on a local level is so big. Talk to your neighbors. Look around. Stand up for yourself. Be an individual. Stop surrendering to this idea of the monolith. Have a real conversation. Don't be worried about people being upset with you because you didn't say what was the approved script for today.
That's true.
Realize that we're all waking the fuck up.
Mm-hmm.
Go look at the comments. Go look at the comments on the White House's Facebook page. It's not people going, oh, Joe, you're doing so good. I'm so proud. 85% of them are people who are just pissed.
Oh, yeah.
They're not stupid. You can't wash that away.
Hey,
Look at some of these news outlets who are getting bombarded with stories about people dying from the vaccine. They're going, could we please get stories about people who have died from not being vaccinated? And they're like, no, but here's some stories about motherfuckers who died from the vaccine.
Right.
And they can't ignore it anymore because you can't deny reality if you talk to your neighbors. The reason they don't want you to go socialize with your neighbors and they want you to stare at the screen is because they can tell you that reality isn't real.
Yeah.
You know why they can't do that to you and me? Because we talk to each other.
Right.
Because I'm active in my community. Because when they tell me something is happening, I go outside and I look.
Yep.
But they've got you convinced that it's happening around you and you can't see it.
Bullshit. See, so here's the thing. Here's one question that I've been wondering. These social media platforms are extremely powerful. This is a time that's never existed before. It's unprecedented. But the fact that they block whatever's not in the left, I mean, let's face it. Twitter, for example, banned Donald Trump while he was president, but the Taliban still has
The sitting president of the United States. Are you kidding me?
And then the Taliban is still active on Twitter. See, That's the shit that throws me off. So here's my question. How come people with big influence, with big money, that believe in, freedom, that believe in capitalism, don't come out and do more about it, right? Like create a decentralized platform.
They do. They come out every day about it. Morgan Freeman has spoken out about how he feels that racism has been dying or dead in America on multiple occasions, and people are just ignore it. Like he's not there.
Right.
Morgan Freeman.
Right.
Oh, so he doesn't count anymore?
But I'm
no,
talking
but because if what you're saying, no matter how famous you are, look at what just happened to Nicki.
Right.
Look at what just happened to Nicki Minaj. You don't think people with money and influence are speaking up, JC?
Right.
And look what's happening to them when they do.
What? Yeah, no, for sure. Think about this. When the election was happening, right? When the election was happening, you saw no celebrities speak up to endorse Trump. The only ones you saw speak up were the ones Biden. Why? Because they know that if they speak up against Biden, they have no job.
Wrong.
That's a fact.
Wrong.
No.
Celebrities that spoke up for Trump were made to look crazy.
Right?
Made fun of.
No. What
came out, Lil Wayne got on TV and said, look, what this president has done for black culture, for me, with the First Step Act for getting people out of the fucking prison system, I endorse Donald Trump. Lil Wayne straight up said that. And people were like, do you believe that sellout, Lil Wayne?
Right.
Like, but he made a point. The First Step Act is the first thing in reversing the fucking 84 Drug Act, which is what Biden put into place, which is what put all the black dads in jail. I'm sorry. But we all know, like, it's a fact. You can look at it in a history book. You can see who passed the 84 Crime Act.
That's true.
Right? Three strikes and you're out. That put all the inner city dads in jail. Where did that come from? Biden. He called them animals and said the city was basically a jungle. I've watched the footage. We can all go look it up.
That's true. I saw that.
And then Donald Trump passes the First Step Act to actually getting all of these people who are non-violent offenders who shouldn't be in jail out of jail. And we tell him, everybody says, well, he's the most racist. I don't like the guy. I personally don't like I wouldn't hang out with Donald Trump, right? And not because of the fact that he's, people say, I personally just don't think, I think it would be weird for me. I don't know why. I just feel like he's his level of what consumerism in America and like eating all commercialized things. Like, I don't know. I don't think I would hang out with the guy and eat McDonald's with him.
Sure. I'd have a beer with him.
At the same time, like, I don't have a problem with the policies that he had, right? Like, I'm an anarchist. I don't want anybody in the office, but the guy passed a bunch of policies that I liked. He passed some shit I didn't like. Yeah, He did some weird Democrat stuff where he was like, well, we're going to expand some gun control laws. And I was like, how about we just get belt fed? Like, let's be honest. I should be able to own anything you can own.
Right.
And I don't want to get into my love of 2A because that's very controversial, but like from a realistic perspective, this guy came out and actually did things that made an impact, and then people would completely ignore it and talk about how he makes you feel.
Oh, yes.
He just makes you feel gross. He makes you feel gross? And you voted for Biden.
Exactly.
I voted for the really overqualified woman with the PhD in organizational psychology that was actually running with a bunch of policies that could fix this country, that most of the people screaming at me that voting for Donald Trump would have made me sexist, right? Didn't even know was running. So most of the feminists in my life that were like, you have to vote for Biden if you care about women. I was like, I'm actually voting for a woman. Have you heard Dr. Jorgensen? She's amazing.
Yeah.
And thank you for screaming at me that I'm a sexist for not voting for Joe Biden, who is one of the creepiest dudes with women I have ever seen in my life.
Exactly.
Can't wait till we have the Cuomo call where Biden gets on screen and goes, that's how I interact with women, you know? Somebody like we're going to have that, right? Because everybody knew Cuomo was a weird, creepy dude. I'm Italian. I don't have a bunch of people who are coming out being like, yeah, I don't like that. You know why? Because this word consent. May I hug you?
Yeah. And by the way, when I mention about nobody coming out to support Trump, what I meant is not literally nobody, but hardly anybody. And the reason why is because of what happened to
Kanye. Look at what they did to Kanye.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Exactly. Yeah, because the left is vicious. In the podcast with Joe Rogan and Patrick Bet-David says, here's how I look at it, and I agree with it. I never heard it that way, but makes a lot of sense to me. He says, I feel like the left is more their side right, meaning, Democrat over country and God, where Republicans are more God, country over being a Republican, right? That's in that order is how they value things. And it's true, right? When you look at some of these people on the left, even though they may not agree with some of Joe Biden's policies, they're like, doesn't matter. As long as we get somebody from the left in office, that's what matters the most. And there's a lot more.
There's a reason for that.
All right, tell me.
On one side, you have people who say, well, God exists and your natural rights are given to you by God. And the government's job is to make sure that nobody steps on the rights that God gave you. And on the other side, it's the government grants you rights. There is nothing above that. So rights come from the government. So that's where that comes from. Because if rights come from the government, then the government has the right to take them away from you.
Yep.
If rights come from something above the government, then they do not have a right to take them away from you. They were not given to you by them, therefore they are not theirs to take away. But on the other hand, if you believe that your rights are solely and exclusively given to you by government, then the government has the ability to take them away. It's that simple. Most of the stuff that we think is like really complicated is just blatantly and bluntly in front of us.
Yeah. Hey, so tell me tell me your thoughts on the inspiration for the left's views. Is it Karl Marx?
I mean, to a certain, here's what it is. They're looking for a narrative that makes you want to not play the game. Because if you play the game of capitalism, then there's competition and there's growth and they can't control you, right? So what do? They go look for someone who wrote a narrative that they can use. And they find this unemployed dude who was a philosopher who wrote a bunch of philosophy about how the act of being a philosopher is more valuable than actually contributing to society, while he was living off of his friends, sleeping on a fucking couch like a lowlife. So somebody goes and finds this writing and they go, ooh, writing that tells you that the most valuable thing you can do to society is just be in society. And it preaches that you contributing and playing in capitalism is evil. And we can use this writing to enforce the idea that achievement is bad and that you should just sit and be taken care of. And that's what it's for, right? It's a narrative that paints a heroic picture of a person that doesn't do dick.
Right.
And it paints an ugly picture of and here's what it says. And people are like, well, no, it's for the workers. But most workers in America are not communists because they're skilled laborers. It's not about skilled laborers. When you say that it's the workers' party, they don't care about you having skills. What they care about is the idea that everybody that contributes to a company or contributes to in any way is present, basically, right? So if you're my employee, you're entitled to a share of the profit. That all profit is the result of exploited work.
Right.
Now, there's the problem in that, is that it doesn't factor for what about losses?
Mm-hmm.
So if the company loses, does every employee owe me money to help pay the losses and the loans?
Nope.
No.
And not only that, what percentage of new businesses lose? Something like 95%.
So and therein lies the question, what's the value of risk?
Right.
Would those people have organized themselves on their own? What's the value of organization?
Right.
People are always so obsessed communists are obsessed with capitalism from the idea of capital. They're not even focused on the fact that risk and organization are massively what fuels capitalism. Isn't capital. That's what keeps track. What fuels capitalism is risk, reward, ultimately for risk and organization.
Yes.
Can you organize people to take a risk with you? Should you be rewarded if you do that?
Yeah, powerful.
Are you protecting? And here's the thing about capitalism. JC, right or wrong, if I want someone to assume part of the risk with me, I can't pay them I have to pay them more money. If I'm going to pay you less to take a risk with me, I got to give you equity. I got to give you a piece of the upside because that's how capitalism works. Because if you're going to share in the risk, you share in the reward.
Right.
Now, if you're not going to share in the risk, you're going to get a paycheck. And if things go bad, you're going to walk.
Yep.
You have no risk.
Correct.
Your paycheck should be higher when things work out without you doing anything to contribute. Because let me tell you something, the people who contribute get bonuses. That's how companies work.
Yeah. Yep.
So it's interesting. The other thing is that the market works this way. If people treat, if the guy who runs the company is a fucking asshole, he can't keep employees for the right amount of money anyway.
Right.
I've watched people lose a quarter of their workforce in an email because they didn't know how to talk to their employees. So this idea somehow that capital is and that's what a weird thing, because that's the thing, right? Capital is the reward. It's not that's not how you play the game. You play the game through skill,
right,
and organization.
Yeah, it's true, man.
You don't see the communists sitting around going, well, I should have more skills and I should be more organized. No, I should have more capital.
Right.
Are you more skillful and more organized? That's not the point. The point is you have more capital than me. Well, am I significantly more skilled and organized than you? Well, yeah, but that doesn't mean you deserve more capital than me. Oh no, motherfucker, it 100% does.
That's right.
I'm more skilled. I'm far more willing to take a risk than you are. Yep. And there's my rewards. I have gone broke and been back against the wall more times than I can count.
Me too.
Any great entrepreneur has.
I'll give you an example, man. I started a student loan forgiveness company years ago, 2016. Converted my office, my network marketing office, into that. I invested a bunch of my own money, and I allowed a couple of people to invest money into the company, right, for a piece of it, right? My income took a dump about 50%, my network marketing income, because I wasn't managing that business anymore. Long story short, lasted about 2 years, and it ended up not working out, right? It is what it is. You got guys that invested a couple $1,000 and didn't put any work into it, didn't lose nothing much more than just a couple $1,000, right? Come and complain to me years later, multiple times, about how that business didn't work. And I said, bro, I lost hundreds of thousands of dollars in income, passive income, plus the money and the time that I invested into the business, right? And so there is a sense of entitlement. That was an example that happened with me. And I realized, shit, I'm not going to do business with people like that ever again, man. Like, you can't pay me enough money to want to come in on a business with me, man, because it just doesn't make sense. And as an entrepreneur, they take the risks. And these other people, for example, if you get a job, that's good. And if you're happy with a job, good for you. But they got a job after the entrepreneur probably failed 5, 10 times, 20 times, and finally was able to have a successful business and stuff. And these people that have a job, granted, they don't make as much money as Jeff Bezos, but Jeff Bezos started fucking 30 years ago, right? And he went through a bunch of shit, right? And he took the risks. And it just boggles my mind the way people think. But here's the thing, man. They're indoctrinated. That's what it is. They're indoctrinated by school. They're indoctrinated by what they see on television programming, which is called tell-a-vision. And they're programming people. And, the narrative that they're given is a narrative that fits whatever they want to push. Hey, going back to what you mentioned earlier, and we're about to wrap up here, but going back to what you mentioned earlier about how they want to track everybody's transactions over $600 or something like that, right? How do you think that's going to affect the crypto market?
It's going to push more money into it. I mean, crypto's going up, so gold's going up, precious metals are going up. Whenever there's instability in currency, people take their money out of currency. So first you'll see a rise in the stocks, then the stocks will get unstable, and then you'll see a rise in crypto and precious metals. It's cyclical, bro. Everything is cyclical. And people's distrust of the federal banking infrastructure and where the money's coming from. I mean, think about the Fed. Like, who regulates the Fed? We have a regulatory board. Well, who's it made out of? Well, each of the banks on the Fed appoint a member to the board. Wait, so you're regulated by yourselves? Right. No. We're regulated by a board. Yeah, but you just said that you each just put one person on the board. Right. Yeah, so we agree to not do anything. So you agree with each other to not do anything shady to us, and we're just supposed to trust that.
Right. Yeah. That's funny. It's true. So the crypto market, man. So let's say, for example, and this is not financial advice. I like to put a certain percentage of my income into different asset classes, right? Cryptos being one of them, right? What would you advise? Let's say I'm your younger brother and I say, hey, Nick, here's the deal, man. I got some extra money, right? At the end of the month, what was that?
33, 33, and 33.
Yeah, break it down.
So you do a third of your money into crypto, a third of your money into hard asset, and a third of your, and hard asset can be precious metals and it can be real estate, but I mean hard asset, like tangibly physical hard asset.
Right.
And then you put a third of your money into stocks. You do not keep your money in cash.
Not in cash, especially the way it's devaluing, like it's falling like a rock right now.
Yeah.
Cash is worthless.
Yep.
Worthless. It's toilet paper. You may as well buy toilet paper because that might go up if we have another pandemic.
Right. That's true. That's true. That's a good point. Shit, 2020 taught us that for sure, man. You literally couldn't find toilet paper anywhere. Hey, finally, bro, what do you make of AOC and her dress? Did you see her dress, bro? The tax rich dress?
It was very telling.
Yeah.
I'm at a Met Ball with a bunch of people who are granted government monopoly service contracts to make a bunch of inflated money off the backs of the poor. And I'm not wearing a dress that says we need to feed the poor or help children. I'm wearing a dress that says tax the rich around the rich. It's political theater. And I'm so tired of it, man. Like, if you want to get pulled into what, like, I'm sorry, but when I realized that there was things to do other than like cheer for fucking professional wrestling and professional athletes, my life got way better. Like when I was a kid, it was really cool to be like, oh, Hulk Hogan's a bad guy now, or Hulk Hogan's a good guy. Vince McMahon owned everything, right? And that's, she's playing a role in political theater.
Yep.
And that's what it is. It's political theater. It's the illusion of choice.
Yep.
And if she really wanted to make the world a better place, she wouldn't be wearing a tax the rich dress to the Met Ball. She'd be shoulder to shoulder with fucking Bruno Serrato at the Anaheim White House, trying to figure out how we can do more things like that. She'd be sitting with Nellie Vasquez Rowland at a Safe Haven Foundation, trying to figure out how to do more of that. The number of rich people I know that are making a massive impact on this fucking country every day that don't need to be taxed by somebody who is so far removed from the actual action of helping another person.
Right.
And I'll say this, man, I've been around long enough. I've worked around the politics. I've worked in PR for politicians. It's bullshit. It's all theater. Why do pharma companies exist? Because there's more money in the treatment than the cure. Why do politics exist? Because there's more money in the treatment than the cure.
Yep.
If they actually fucking fixed the social issues, they wouldn't have something to rile you up about, so you'd vote for them.
Yep.
They don't want to put the food desert issue in inner cities. That's super easy to fix. You put gardens in, you grow food, right? Who owns the property? The city.
And they don't let you do that shit. They don't let you do that.
No, they smash the gardens and they charge you with fucking littering.
Yep. Yeah, it's fucking nuts. It's nuts, man. It really is, man. You know, she's wearing a $5,000 dress to a gala with $35,000 tickets with a bunch of rich people that you think they want to get taxed as well. Bullshit. You know what I mean? It's
And then you listen to the arguments from people who are defending her. They're like, well, she didn't pay for the ticket. I'm like, of course not. Her benefactors invited her there.
right.
She wore a dress to make them happy.
Yeah, and you said something interesting. You said it says tax the rich. It doesn't say feed the poor. You know what I mean? It's all bullshit. And here's a fucked up part. How likely do you think for her over the next 10, 20 years to be president?
I don't know. I don't give a fuck.
No, but I'm saying you think it's possible, right?
How many of the people who scream that she is making the world a better place can tell you how? And even if they can give you some bullshit convoluted answer, ask them if they know who Bruno Serrato is. Say, well, do you know who Bruno, if you care this much about people who are making an impact, you must know who Bruno Serrato is. And they probably don't. I know who Bruno Serrato is personally. I actually sat and wept with this man. Bruno owns the Anaheim White House. Do you know what the Anaheim White House is? It's a Michelin star rated restaurant in your neck of the woods in Anaheim, California. Okay, Michelin star rated. The waiting list to go to Bruno's restaurant is about a month and a half.
Wow.
He's one of the most successful restaurateurs I've ever seen. Now, he's also sponsored by Barilla, the Italian pasta company. He had a weird throwdown with them because he's gay, and their CEO said some fucked up shit about gay people. And Bruno was like, yo, I'm a huge part of your PR strategy. What are you doing, Holmes?
Right.
Gave them a crack on the wrist and made him apologize. That's real. That's not like, oh, no. He was just like, yo, calm down. Love is love. Chill out. I'm a weird gay chef. And you know what he's done? What he has done in the last 20 years of running that restaurant, he has fed over 36 million meals for free to children and their families. He has bought condos for like 40 families that I know of. I sat there, I'm like, what do you, he's like, bro, every dime I make that I don't need, if I don't need it, I use it to make the world a better place. That's why I love making money so much. That's why I love feeding the wealthy. That's why I love bringing these successful people into my restaurant, because they contribute to my charity. They sit in my restaurant, they eat with me, they tell me about their successes, and they say, how can we make the world a better place, Bruno? And you'll never hear Bruno on the news. CNN has given him awards. CNBC, they give him awards. You hear about it just quietly. Bruno Serrato feeds children. Bruno Serrato feeds children. He posted a picture the other day on social media. And it was a picture of him sitting on the staircase of the restaurant with all the awards he's been given for the literally tens of millions of meals that he has out of his own pocket fed children on. And that picture was posted around right around the Met Gala. You know, he's like, I didn't feel fancy at the Met Gala, but I felt pretty fancy with all of my words.
Nice.
Now, that picture didn't go viral. All these people who are like, there's children starving all over the US because of a broken system, weren't posting Bruno.
Right.
They were posting a spoiled little girl in a bullshit dress, making a for-show statement that doesn't mean anything. It wasn't feed the children, it wasn't help the poor. It was tax the rich while I pass policies to go after people for $600.
Wow. Crazy, man. My friend, I appreciate you coming on the podcast, bro. Last question. How can people connect with you, bro, if they want to connect with you?
You know, I'm Nic Sementa. I'm the only Nic Sementa in the United States. NIC-SEMENTA. Pretty easy to find and follow almost anywhere. If you're interested in what we do as a company, check out WooSender or AIFollowUp.com, WOOSENDER, and AIFollowUp.com. Or check me out at the Agile Marketing Academy. Or go into your Spotify and type in Nic Sementa. I'll pop up under various podcasts where people ask me questions. I'm not that hard to find.
Cool. And by the way, that's Nic, just N-I-C, right? Yes. So Nic Sementa. And we're going to have his links on the description. Nic, my man, I appreciate you, brother. We have a pending conversation next week about the automation. Thanks a lot for coming on the podcast, bro. We have to do this again in you know, hopefully a couple of months, because there's so many things I want to talk to you about, but you know, we certainly can't get through it all in one conversation.
Agreed, man. I appreciate you very much. You have a wonderful day, sir.
My man, have a good one, brother. Hey guys, I hope you guys like this episode with Nic. Go ahead and like and comment this video, share it with people that you know. Hope you guys got some value from this. And with that being said, I'll see you guys at the top or from the top. Take care.